I spy with my little eye a craving for nostalgia, and when I say nostalgia, obviously I'm referring to most of the media that I spent growing up in the early 2000s. I'm sure it is about the same thing as late 90s kids are. As much as they want to brag and claim how much better they had it from early 2000s kid, we basically grew up with the same exact things. I don't get the false praise, I don't get the idol worship of kids born in the 90s. We grew up with the same exact things. From cartoons, video games, and movies. I'm treating this sort of a mental health archive and sort of a tutorial for those who are confused on how to deal with their own loneliness and depression during this fourth month now. We're now running on this fourth month of quarantine now since mid-March. I just wanted to use this as an opportunity to kind of ramble, talk about what I personally do myself and how I'm sure it can benefit and relieve a lot of stress from people out there dealing with our current corrupted nation right now and the way they're dealing with this whole pandemic in a way. I can give my own personal hot takes on what I think of how our nation is dealing with this stuff on another clip, another session, but in the meantime, let me just go out there and say, revisit the things that made your childhood great. Revisit the things that seriously brightened up your morning every Saturday morning when you woke up early in the morning. You remember those days? Getting off school on a Friday, going home knowing you could stay up late and knowing that you could just simply sleep in tomorrow, or even not. You could even simply wake up anytime you want. Even earlier than the school protocol and the school schedule allowed you to back then, waking up at 6 a.m. I remember back in high school. Or no, since elementary school, which is ridiculous now that I'm thinking about it. How do we ever do that without cracking? Going back to watching cartoons. As of right now, I'm currently working on my own project right now where I'm analyzing the first few seasons of SpongeBob right now. And I've been rewatching a bunch of the original episodes, about 120 to be exact. I'm taking it per season, obviously, and I'm analyzing each season and breaking it down in a way. Immersive. I'm completely immersed in a whole brand new way because of the adult humor written into a children's cartoon. And a majority of the things that we enjoyed as a kid, we can enjoy now even as an adult. Here I am, 20 years on this earth. A majority of the things that I enjoyed 15 plus years ago, I'm still going back to them and enjoying them just as much, if not in a whole new perspective today. Because I'm sure that's just the intent behind the creators of these many things that we grew up watching or grew up playing, because they themselves are adults. Adults who most likely want to rekindle their lost youth, just as we do. We all want to rekindle our lost youth, you know, back in the days, back when we were super excited, super joyful, optimistic, excited for the future. And now as we grow older, we just want to revert back to those simpler times in a way. Man, I really do miss those days. With everything that I've been watching and viewing right now, what I can appreciate is incorporating adult humor. When incorporating adult humor into your children's cartoon, those who watch it as a kid, I myself found a lot of jokes to be funny, yet I didn't quite understand what they meant. I just thought it was funny whenever something random was brought up. Something I didn't quite understand was funny enough to entertain me in a way. But now when I'm an adult, I start rethinking a lot of those things. I'm like, what if I were to rewatch them now? I wonder if I would understand what the writer meant in that specific moment. And then rewatching it now, especially for SpongeBob, there are so many relevant and topical jokes that refer to early adulthood, adult responsibilities in general, that kids just won't understand. So many things that are so relatable today. That's where most humor can come from in animation, being relatable. With that in mind, let me refer to video games now. Obviously, growing up, I grew up as a Nintendo fanboy. I grew up buying every piece of Nintendo tech. I think my very first console was a Nintendo GameCube back in like 2004, 2005. It was out for a while before, but that was when I first got it. Then obviously everyone got the Wii back when it first came out in 2006. That took the world by storm. I didn't know anybody who didn't have a Wii. Even friends of mine and their families who weren't exactly financially stable or living in the best household, they had a Wii. They lived like crap in like insect infested houses in their bedrooms, but they had a Wii. I found that so funny, but we all got a Wii. And then obviously growing up, and then around the time maybe 2010 hit, I was going right into middle school. Around then is when I transferred, like most people, most kids probably would transfer to Xbox and PlayStation around that time. That's exactly what I did. And that's when I kind of lost touch with you can say when I started losing touch of the things from my earlier childhood. I was still a child, obviously, even going into middle school, you're still a child. But I would say starting middle school is when you start to departure from the things that defined the first 10 years at least of your life. And then going from 10 to 15 years, you start to go through this awkward phase where the biggest objective is to really just fit in and go with the crowd in a way. I remember doing that. I'm sure everyone remembers doing that. Everyone's guilty of that. We all just wanted to fit in and seem cool to everyone else because from 10 to 15, we feel like we are the center of the world. If not, we deserve to be the center of the world. The world revolves around us. And then obviously from the ages of 15 to 20, at least it's happened for me, you start to realize that, oh man, the world is a lot bigger than it actually is. So the world doesn't actually revolve around me? Huh. What a mind-blowing novice idea. I've never thought of this before. How can the world continue to revolve around me and continue to move on if I'm not there to be present? And then by the time you're in your late teens, early adulthood, you start to understand just how insignificant life can be. I'm not out here saying that all life is insignificant in a way. That's my pessimistic, nihilist side speaking out. I don't want that person to come out tonight. Maybe another night. We each have our own definition of what values our life. And what values my life personally is really a lot of the things that I did in those first 10 years. What I did in those first 10 years of my life was something truly magical, something I'll never forget. So many fond memories. Going to friends' houses and just playing with no worry in the world. It was just a purely magical time, stress-free. And I feel a part of me did understand that. A part of me did want that to last forever. It wasn't until the teen years when puberty hit where I was starting to be like, man, forget my childhood. I just want to move on and grow up and see the world. That's everyone. There's nothing special or significant about that. There's really nothing that different between us. We just mentally put those barriers up between. At least I know I'm guilty of it right now. I'm still getting used to it. I'm still trying to get out of that bad habit of just putting mental barriers up and telling myself that I truly am an individual person who doesn't need anybody else. But in the end, we as humans, part of us do need to depend on others. Not overly too much. That's a topic for a whole other night. Oh man, over-reliance. That's a rough patch, but that's a rough patch to experience firsthand. Trust me on that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to rekindle your youth, because by the end of the day, it's whatever helps us sleep at night. And if whatever helps you sleep at night is something that you did, an activity that you enjoyed doing when you were a kid, as an adult, you have every right to do whatever you want to do. You have that freedom now. Even if you were to move out of your childhood home, go somewhere across the nation, somewhere out of this country, or even stay in the same household that you grew up staying in, you still have freedom to branch out and change your life for the better, whatever way you want to do it. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who don't even know what they want to do yet. It's okay. I'm barely 25% done with my life, or at least expected to. Usually the average age is 70 for a human, so about 20? No. Actually, I'm at about 25% now, actually, if even. So I got that to be grateful for, and hopefully the next 25% of my life. Obviously, self-discovery is a given. I always found that so hilarious when people think that's something so unique and special, discovering myself, doing what's best for me. Newsflash, most people, I mean, everyone in a way, even those who aren't exactly psyched about life, are doing whatever they can to improve their character and discover new things about themselves every single day. We're all doing it, so by the end of the day, if we're all doing it, there's nothing too special about it, is it? Going back to my nihilistic point of view, let's try to zip out of there. And on a positive note, rekindle your youth. Go and visit the things if you still have access. I've always been kind of the collector type who hangs on to different mementos from my youth, or even now. Even now I'm keeping, little things so that way by the time I'm 30, I can look back and say, oh yes, I remember doing this at 20. Why would I not want to do that? That's just fun. It's exciting. It just adds an extra layer to this little journey, Go into your closet, unbox those little toys, knickknacks, electronics, or anything, whatever it is. Unbox it, plug it back in, assemble it again, try it out again, dig through it, dig through memory lane, go back in time to back when things were just so simple, because we can't go back to those, unfortunately. It'd be nice if we can. Time travel isn't exactly present at the moment, but the instant it is, I'm sure it's going to sell out fairly quickly because I'm sure a majority of us, if not all of us, will like at least a chance or opportunity to see what it was like again back then for us. Because life just flies by fast, and the older I'm getting, the more I'm noticing just how fast time flies, and it is absolutely horrifying. I suppose that's a good way to end it off. Next session, I suppose we can delve more deeper into the specific television shows, movies, or even video games that I grew up playing. I am revisiting so many of those things right now, and it's been awesome. So yeah, that's all I want to say. See ya.